You like my hat, Josh?
Yes,
you need
I
to.
do.
You have to wear it now.
I wear it for the Facebook beginning.
Okay. You've been to a.
That's where I got it.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought.
It was for my birthday a couple years ago.
I almost gave it away, but I didn't want to for our listeners.
I wish it said the word big instead of the word gone.
I tell you what I don't have as big as my ear holes, because these AirPods keep falling out. I've got tiny little ears for a great big guy.
I'm glad nobody can hear us right now.
Everyone can hear us, TJ.
What?
Everyone. Except for our Buzzsprout listening audience. Those on the actual podcast. Because I
Listening
normally cut this out.
To the audio.
Yep.
I'm glad you spare them.
Yep.
Josh,
Yes, sir.
TJ probably did not tell you how good of a shot that he made on that deer.
Was it awesome?
It was awesome.
Yeah. I
He
missed
was
the
like
doe at
David,
150
and that
yards.
deer was
so.
like Goliath.
Did you hit it in the head?
With a rock.
No, you didn't.
With a 308 rounded pebble from the.
That's right. With one smooth stone.
Very nice.
Oh man, I can't see anymore.
Nope.
I just see Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Hello.
I'm assuming that this is the right time to welcome
Yeah.
Facebook and YouTube.
Yep. Hello.
So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to say a special hello to Joe Lewis, one of our church members and longtime listener, never time caller. And he is currently being treated for, I was just trying to find the right spot, which I've now found. Are you ready? Okay, church, it's about quarter after. I guess we should go ahead and get started with our service.
Yep, I reckon. Everybody take your bulletin, because I got some announcements. You see on the back there, we aren't going to be able to meet in Bill's classroom for Sunday school next week because of the leak finally breaking through the sheetrock. Instead, we're going to meet in Larry's classroom. We're just going to have to push some of that Christmas stuff aside.
Well, thanks, Ted. Now we're going to sing. Try to get a hold of one of the newer hymnals, because I know a lot of those covers are starting to fall off, and the tape ain't holding together like we thought it would.
Okay, everyone, thanks for being here today. And remember to use the back entrance, because that door out front is stuck.
Does it matter if your church building is outdated? On this episode of Rural Pastors Talk. I hit play.
Thank you for joining us for another edition of Rural Pastors Talk, a podcast highlighting the advancement of Christ's kingdom in rural places, just like the town you live in. The rural church is not the baby pool we splash around in before moving on to bigger opportunities. It is not the place we're confined until we can take off those training wheels, and it is not God's penalty box as a punishment for breaking the rules. No, Jesus died for his people. And as long as Christ's people live in rural places, a vibrant, healthy, multiplying presence of his church will be there too. My name is TJ Freeman. I am coming to you from what was formerly our associate pastor's office.
Yes.
It is now a podcasting, we'll say, studio.
We're getting there.
Space.
I have some things happening next week that will
good.
make you happy.
I love that.
Some painting and such.
So all the black streaks
Yes.
are going to disappear?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Well, they'll get more black.
Okay. And it's a beautiful sunny day.
Indeed.
Crisp, but nice. And I'm joined by...
Hey guys, I'm Pastor Joe Wagner, and I am remoting into you from the corner of my bedroom, which I call my home office,
Nice.
in lovely Whitneyville, Pennsylvania, where it is also sunshiny.
Very good. And also,
Hi, guys. Joshua McLaren, pastoral assistant here at Wellsboro Bible Church.
and in the corner,
I can't.
weighing in at 165 pounds, like 5'8".
With a glorious
6
Say,
feet.
there's no way he's like.
Well, I have
no.
only seen him stand up for like 30 seconds
Fair
so
enough,
far.
Yeah.
Dude, I am much shorter than you and much heavier. And his name is, I don't know if they can hear him. Can they hear him?
Jacob.
All right.
Totally got it.
Jacob is our short-term intern coming from Florida, where it is much sunnier and warmer all the time, but he seems to be okay with the cold weather.
Because I'm Canadian.
Oh, hey.
Canadian.
All right. America's hacked. On this episode of Rural Pastors Talk, the weirdest and worst things in our church building. Our 5 points on why the way you care about your church building matters. Josh is going to review OBS
OBS.
software.
Yep.
And a quote from Puritan Andrew Gray to make your day.
Day.
So, Joe,
Yeah.
aside from the poll that we already know about,
Uh-huh.
which you were going to use until I just said that, what is the
what?
weirdest or worst thing about your church building?
I was going through the tiny church library the other day that somebody had brought in a book, and it was by Tim LaHaye about the end times.
So that book?
That book was the weirdest
Okay.
thing in the entire church. Actually, we have our stage is too small, so we built out of plywood in addition to the stage.
Ah. And
Yeah,
you're not
it still
happy
looks
with
like
it?
Plywood. It could probably use carpeted or
Okay.
stained or painted, because right now it's still plywood.
Ah, yes, unfinished. Does it bother you that the office is out of the building?
That has been remedied because my
Oh.
office is now inside
That's
the building.
right. You shared that before. So what's in the
Yeah.
annex?
The annex would be that's where the children's church classroom is.
Oh, and is that okay? You guys don't mind putting your kids in a different building?
And that also is where the men's Sunday school class is.
Ah,
Yeah, I mind that tremendously.
okay.
I don't like that one little bit.
There you go. For us, it's really, really old building. It was built in 1886. Your building was built, what, in the 50s or something?
Oh yeah, 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
Because it was at first it was a warehouse, then it was a pool hall.
Oh,
and
really?
Now it's a church. We have reclaimed it.
It's been a sign shop before, too.
It was a sign shop before as well.
Yes, and
How could I forget that?
we're speaking to the sign maker.
Mm.
Yeah. So our building was not made for ministry today. So obviously in 1886 there are no cars, nor is there electricity locally. Well, anyway, right? I don't know. What's the date historian, Josh?
What?
Electricity.
Dude, my American history is so bad. And I know
Well,
that's not just American,
yeah.
but
Well, anyway, I know that we didn't get electricity in this rural place until the early
Google knows.
maybe even into the 1920s and 30s. Rural electrification. So anyway, the building isn't set up for this kind of ministry today. And what's happened to our building is there was a parsonage built in 1905. There was the church building next door built in 1886. And then they built a connection between the two. And they made it 2 stories in the front, but then the slope of the roof goes down to 1 story so quickly that it's completely unusable space in that gathering place in between. So, and then it's just an odd roof structure, and it looks really funky from out front. I just learned today that one of our members personally put in some flagpoles in front of that section, which really did help. So that was really cool. I didn't know the history of those flagpoles. Found it out. But our kids' space is down what I call the assassin's stairwell.
It's where we started.
Yes, it is.
The
It's in
podcast.
the dungeon. Yeah,
Yes.
we did start down there. So just the way that the kids have to get downstairs is a little funky. And one cool thing, this is kind of weird. The church used to be. Does anybody care about this right now? I'm saying.
It sounds like you really want to say it, though.
Yeah, I guess I should. So the church used to be on ground level, no basement. And then somewhere between the 20s and the 40s, they raised it up because we can see it in the pictures where it was on the ground. Now it's not. But there was an old Sunday school room on an external entrance in the front in like the bell tower.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they got up there. I got up there because I found out, I pushed on the ceiling tiles that were weird looking, and the hatch opened up, and I got up there, and there's all this Sunday school material for kids.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like they had Sunday school up there. It's wallpapered. I have no idea how they got into the bell tower, but they got up there, and I was up there looking around, and the hatch closed, and I was stuck by myself.
Like in Christmas Vacation.
Just like Christmas Vacation.
Exactly
Amen,
like
Joe.
that. Only the mother-in-law didn't close the hatch. It just fell shut. And I didn't have my phone, and I didn't have a projector to watch old movies, but it was very, very cold up there. And eventually somebody came in. No, I found an old coat hanger, and I was able to shove it down through there and pull the hatch open. That's how I got back out. MacGyvered it. So now that I've gotten that out of my system, let's start talking about our 5 points on losing focus in the rural church by getting a distracted focus on some internal things. That's what we're talking about today. And the distracted focus is on being a rural pastor in a rural building. And what happens a lot is we don't think about doing things with excellence in rural places. There's this kind of like good enough is good enough sort of thing. Like one of the things I noticed in this building is almost everything is rigged. Like somebody had a little bit of extra this and, this kind of paneling in their house. So it doesn't match the whole rest of the room, but they had a sheet that they could cut and fit in that spot. Or, this pipe goes into another pipe that's a different size, and there's 5 couplers to make it work or whatever. There's a lot of things like this. And good on those people who made things work without a lot of financial resources. But what's happened is in our rural churches, we can start thinking, well, no one's going to see it. We're not going to have that many visitors. No one even knows our church or ever will know our church. So the level of excellence really doesn't matter. So things like we had in our intro, does it really matter if we start on time or can we start 10, 15 minutes late? Does it really matter if there's typos in the bulletin? Does it really matter if the cover of the hymnal is falling off or it's all taped together? And does it really matter if we care for our buildings? So, Joe.
Yes.
Is this kind of thinking healthy or good?
What we're hopefully going to be teaching about? It is healthy.
No, what I was saying, our church building doesn't matter.
Like the cobbling it together to get by. Yeah, that's not very good and healthy. I wouldn't think. It would be different if you were in the mission field and you're putting together something just to be able to find a spot and a space to be able to do that. But oftentimes we'll take care of our cars or our houses or our tree stands or something else much more better, and we'll be better stewards of those other things than the actual church building that we're meeting in or providing for people. So we do want to be good stewards, and we do want to in a way show we'll put our best foot forward when it comes to those sorts of things.
So we have 5 points here that we'll just kind of move through in a dialogue sort of format. The first thing we want to recognize is it's true, buildings are just places. We call the church building the church, but what is the church actually?
Boy, it's the saints that are called out and that are gathered. Those are the ecclesia. I'm often wondered when that actual transition, and I'm going off the rails now, but when did we start calling the building the church? Like, who made that decision? How did that get made? Because that just little bit of a change has corrupted lots and lots and lots of different thinking when we start thinking of the building as actually the church.
Yeah.
It is just a place. So the people that are in it, that's where we should be stewards of our building, absolutely. But we should also be stewards of the people who are in there. So we can go off the rails when we start thinking, well, I don't want to talk about point number 5, so I'll just stop right there.
Save it. But yeah, that's the first thing we want to recognize is that buildings are just places. It is not the church. It is not like God doesn't dwell there in like the Old Testament kind of way, like we sometimes think about. It's not like Roman Catholic high church where it has to be this beautiful ornate thing because that is the statement about God and our understanding of him. Buildings are just tools. They are tools for the people of God to use. However, second point, we are stewards of them. You started talking about this a little bit with tree stands, and that was a good point. I was thinking about guys that I've went out with, and they've been clearing out like shooting lanes for their tree stands, and I've been the guy running the saw, and just the care that they think about. Okay, I need to have this angle open and this whatever, and I want to make sure I'm not making an unethical shot. So could you do this for me and that? And then we get these umbrellas for our tree stands and these cushions and
Some people videotape out there.
Oh, yeah.
with GoPros.
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
Yep.
So that's a good analogy, Joe. I hadn't thought of that before, but stewardship. God has entrusted these buildings to us by providing the resources for them and these kind of things. So we are stewards of them. So as stewards, what are our responsibilities?
To care for what the Lord has provided. We do need to keep it up. We do need to make it usable. We, like you were describing the pitch of the roof on the connector of that building. Now, I was going through all of my different heads because I'm a natural cobbler. Like I'm a great scavenger. I can find a whole bunch of stuff and I can make it work. Like that's my natural inclination to do that. But if you don't have a usable space when you have done that, then golly, you probably shouldn't have went there in that particular direction. So what you need to do is think ahead and make this as usable and as user friendly and as fruitful when it comes to buildings and spaces as what you can, because this is what God has given to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to take us all the way back to Genesis. You ready?
Womp, womp, womp.
Genesis 1:28. God blessed them. God said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the heavens, and over every little living thing that moves on the earth. Genesis 2:15, the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work and keep it. So this idea of dominion and work, caring for God's things, is part of the fabric of human existence. God made us to represent him, to love him, to know him, but also to care for his stuff. And so we do have a responsibility to care for it. And then when you think of stewardship, you think of like maybe the parable of the talents, where the owner entrusts a certain amount of things to his steward, and then the steward has a responsibility to invest those things. And the one who gets in trouble is the one who just kind of like buries it in the garden. And he's not trying to maximize the investment at all. He's just wanting to make sure he doesn't lose it. And sometimes that's how I think we approach our buildings. We just want to make sure that they're functional so that we can get in there. We're not thinking about maximizing our facilities. We're not thinking about caring for God's things. People talk about the building as like, well, that's going to steal from our financial stewardship. If we put money into the building, it's almost like we're wasting that money. But the building is just as much a stewardship issue. And guess what? The way we care for this building is going to determine whether or not the next generation or the next generation after that has a big, expensive mess to care for, or if the maintenance has been done well and the building's been cared for along the way. So we do need to recognize that this is something that the Lord has entrusted to us. So, rural pastor, here's the application for you and for me. When we think about our buildings, we need to think about it in that terms. God has, in those terms, God has entrusted this place to us. Therefore, this is something of the Lord's, and I should be caring for this with excellence. We should definitely be caring for God's things in a way that maximizes them, in a way that cares for them and demonstrates a desire to see excellence out of it, because it is the Lord's thing that we've just been entrusted to. It's not ours. So the building does matter in terms of really our worship responsibility to the Lord as stewards.
What's 1 Corinthians 10:31? You have it on the front of your vehicle.
Whether, well, do you want the ESV, the KJV?
Do your thing. I was going to look it up.
I have
it's easier to reference
a
you.
blending of them.
Okay.
Whether therefore ye eat or drink or
Do you know how
whatsoever
to
you
do
do,
that?
do all to the glory of God.
So that includes how we care for our building.
Oh, for
doing it
sheezy.
for the glory of God.
Yes, absolutely. We must do it for the glory of God. So if you have a building that you just walk into and use for your own whatever, you're not doing that to the glory of God. You're doing it for your own comfort and convenience. If you have a building that you neglect, you certainly can't say, I've neglected that space to the glory of God.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good point, Josh Alino. That's why you're the Italian scholar. Point number 3, Joe, or do you have something else on 2?
Nope, I'll save this for point number 3.
Okay. Why don't you tell us what that is?
The way that we use our space makes a statement to lost people. Point number 3, the way that we use our space makes a statement to lost people. I'm going to let you start this one off, and then I'm going to jump in with a little bit of an R.C. Sproul illustration.
Like a bomb. You're going to drop the RC bomb?
Boom! Right. Actually, because this is one of the things that I might differ with R.C. on a little bit, but I really appreciate his viewpoint.
Oh, kind of like baptism?
I have a funny story to tell you about. Like, that's like one of the things, but yes, this is something a little bit different. Not quite as, bullseye is baptism.
Did you get that? Never mind. I'll ask you when you start talking. Go ahead, TJ.
Okay. So here's the thing. Lost people don't understand the concepts that Christians understand generally. So they wouldn't understand stewardship in the way that we would. They also would not understand in the way that we would that the church is the people. Because of what you said earlier, Joe, we call the church the building, even though it's not. So lost people look at our building, and they would understand the way we care for our building to be a reflection of what we think about God. It makes a statement about what we think about God to lost people, because if we just let our building be sloppy, they're like, well, these Christians obviously don't value the community that they're in. They're letting the grass grow too high. That bothers us. They're letting the siding peel and not keeping the paint on it like they should. They're letting, for us, we had a tattered flag out front for quite a while, and somebody brought that up from the community. And it just makes a statement to lost people about what Christians are all about. When we care for the building in a way that shows attention to detail, that shows that we recognize we're part of a bigger community, we're not just our own little isolated thing. We keep the property up. If you have a cemetery by your church, the cemetery is well cared for and neat and tidy, even if it's old and forgotten. Fences, like I said, siding, roofing, your parking lot, all of these things, it does make a statement about how you care for lost people and for the Lord that you're supposedly serving there from that space. So this isn't something to dwell on too much, because it's not like we exist to glorify lost people or to try to please them. In fact, in many of the things that we do, especially with COVID right now, we are going to displease lost people in a lot of the things we do. The world hated Christ. How much more will they hate us? However, we want to do things that, if they're going to hate us, they hate us for gospel things, not for things that we've neglected, like taking care of our building. So we just want to recognize that it makes a statement. And then if a lost person comes into your building for service, which they may not do if it looks like trash from the outside, or if you come in and it smells, or you come in and it's all 1980s or 70s or before, or they're like, is that lead paint in the children's ministry chipping onto the floor? These kind of things, that makes a statement to lost people even about how you care about them. So, RC, drop it on us.
One of the things that RC used as an example in the beginning of his book, The Holiness of God, and it's been a while since I have read that, but it has stuck with me for a long, long time, is that he used the ornateness, the grand design, even the iconography a little bit of cathedrals and large stone churches as a way that the builders of those places used every bit of their skill, every bit of their talent, every bit of their treasure and wealth to be able to create a place that pointed to the holiness of God. Not that those, and I think that as the ages and years went by, those places did become idols and people did kind of render a sort of holiness to the actual places themselves. But RC was talking about how much he appreciated and how other people, even if they were unbelievers, when they were to walk into this place, that everything in it is dedicated to God, has a purpose for pointing to God, and how moving even that was to him especially, and then to other people as well. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Well, you're going to get me in trouble now.
I wish I had a little bit better memory and could remember exactly what it was.
Yeah, you're going to get me in trouble because I'm going to say something that theologically will come back. You might get an email, Josh.
I'm prepared.
All right. So the temple. The church is not the temple in any way. I understand that completely. So don't misunderstand what I'm about to say. The detail that went into everything on the temple, I read that and I'm going, why? Like, why does this measurement have to be exactly this? Why this much gold or this much silver or this much whatever? Why this particular kind of cedar? Why does the Lord care about all these little details, and why does it have to be so ornate? It's really over the top from our perspective today. So this same God who is never changing surely cares at least how we care for the property that he has entrusted to his people. So the church property is that. It's something he's entrusted to his people. How we care for it, then, I do think makes a statement not just to the lost people, but what you said about what we think about God, period. And so, go ahead.
I was going to say it's a wonderful meditation, a wonderful thought, even in Christian philosophy, and to get your mind going to consider beauty and ugliness, to consider beauty and disheveledness, and how God appreciates those things.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes along with the exact point of what you're talking about. If what you've got and presenting to the world as a place where God's people are meeting, and it is within their power to make this place a little bit nicer, right? But it is slovenly. People don't think about those sorts of things. It makes a big difference both to the folks who see that outside, but then also I really believe that God is disappointed when we are not good stewards and we are slovenly and we are lazy and we don't think about taking care of the things that he has given to us.
Yeah. So when it comes to just updating your building, like you said, we update lots of things: our cars, our homes, our wardrobes. Ain't nobody walking around in bell bottoms right now that they still have from the 1970s. The leisure suit, these kind of things, we update. We do. But for some reason, we feel like updating the church is less important. And I think that is wrong. I really want to push back on that for rural pastors, to say you have a responsibility to help your building be as useful as a tool as possible. And it will be more useful the more it's updated, cared for, looks nice. God did give us those rods and cones in our eyes to receive feedback of what things actually look like. There are pleasant things, there are unpleasant things. We understand the beauty of standing at the Grand Canyon, looking out and being amazed. We understand Job. Not only did he suffer and struggle, but he ended up in a very ugly place, sitting in a trash heap. And that's meant to be an ugly picture to us. We understand these things because God designed us that way. And we need to think more intentionally about our buildings.
I thought 2 Corinthians 2:15 quick.
Sure.
So Paul says in verse 12, when I came to Troas, you're learning Greek.
Roll with it, brother. Just roll.
To preach the gospel of Christ, even though a door was open for me in the Lord, my spirit was not at rest because I did not find my brother Titus there. So I took leave of them and went to Macedonia. But thanks be to God, who in Christ always leads us in triumphal procession, and through us spreads the fragrance of the knowledge of him everywhere. For we are the aroma of Christ to God among those who are being saved and among those who are perishing. So I think the way in which we care for our building causes us to be a good stench, a nice, pleasing aroma to those who come and visit.
That's right. A good stench, is that actually
aroma.
a thing? There you
Aroma.
go. So my wife has never accused me of a good stench. There used to be a guy in the church who would quote that verse and he'd go, "You smell that? That's the people of God."
Oh my goodness.
All right. Point number 4. The way we use our space will encourage or discourage our values. So as a church, the things that we value, we can use our space to either encourage or discourage. So like gathering, being together as one body, actually coming together, doing the one another's, showing hospitality, these kinds of things are all values of the church. Because they're values of the Lord laid out through Scripture. If we have a space where nobody wants to spend time, or it's just not possible, it's too tight, it's claustrophobic in there, it's dim and dark or smelly or these kinds of things, you are actually discouraging things that you are preaching should be done. Hopefully you're preaching that these things should be done, which is just a terrible thing to do. So I remember when I first walked into this building here, everything was green. The town school, the color is green, and everything in the church was that color green. I
Do you
love
have any hornets stenciled on the walls?
no, but it was all in the atmosphere. The paint on the walls was tinted green. The carpet was tinted was really really green, and there was a lot of it. The padding for the pews was green, and it was too much green. And then all the walls were paneling, old 1970s or 80s paneling, very dark, a bunch of fluorescent lights on all the ceilings, casting that kind of green. It was just very sterile, very, very sterile, unpleasant place to hang out. And it was also extremely cramped. You just, narrow hallways. There's still some of that here. We call it the maze to find your way to the bathroom. Not anything we can do about it, but just putting on some bright colored paint on the walls, opening up walls we could so that there's some gathering space, and cheering the place up with a little bit of decor from Hobby Lobby, because where else would a Christian shop for church decor? And suddenly, people actually want to stand around and talk. You can, by the way you care for your facility, either encourage or discourage things that you value, because the Lord values, like gathering one another, hospitality, etc. And you get a sense of that if you walked into somebody else's house right now and they had all paneling, they had 1970s couches, they had the blue toilet in the bathroom and the blue shower. You remember those? These kinds of things. It says something to you. It communicates something. You notice it. The same thing happens in a church. You notice when these things have not been done, and it's less comfortable. It's less homey. It's less welcoming and inviting, and you can make it more inviting. If anybody has a blue toilet, I apologize if I just offended you. Do you have a blue toilet, Joe?
No, I do not. But I was like, I'm leaving you out there on your own on this one, man.
Well, you have a cistern in your yard. How's that?
I do have a cistern in my yard.
Yeah. Anyway, anything else you want to say about what I just said? Or did I
Nope.
stand in solidarity?
I stand in solidarity
with myself.
Point. No.
No, you go. Don't bail me out.
I'll bail you out. I'm bailing you out. So you had mentioned the trailer that we've got parked in our parking lot, and that's what it is. It is a trailer. It's like a work office trailer from 1980 that we brought in and we got for just a little bit of nothing. And
where'd you get it, by the way?
We got that from Tabernacle Baptist Church.
Oh, okay.
Tabernacle Baptist Church essentially in a little town called Tioga essentially gave that to us, and
cool.
Cost us $1,000 to get here, and then we put a $15,000 deck on it, so it wasn't free. But what we have tried to do in there, well, Josh, you were in. I mean, there's paneling in there. It's paneled, but we have gone and we have painted, and we've put some beautiful murals on the walls. Josh, you were just in there and saw the murals that we had on the kids' side. So with the gifts and the talents that the folks in your church have, give them an opportunity to be able to go and use those.
Yeah.
Some people can stand around and they can talk and fellowship wherever and whenever. They've got that gift. And then there's some other folks that are more behind the scenes sorts of folks. And maybe they're a painter, maybe they're a decorator, maybe they're a designer, maybe they're this, or maybe they're that. And if they need a spot to be able to apply those gifts and talents that they have in their interests and want to be able to use what they have in their abilities, turn them loose within boundaries that you set up. But that will start to show some ownership as well. When our places of worship, those buildings don't necessarily, they're kind of forgotten. People have a greater sense of ownership when they take care of that, when they come in and when they will clean, or when they will paint, or when they will decorate, or when they will do this, or when they will do that. And not that we want a great sense of ownership in the building, but it grows a sense of community that way too. So good. I am standing in solidarity with you.
Thanks. Brother. And I'll just say on that, when I came in here, I wasn't like, hey, everybody paint the walls. That was not the first priority in any stretch. We wanted to talk about spiritual things, what it means to be a body, what it means to to go through the scriptures together as a church and to live them out, those kinds of things. But then I started to look around, and I think I've told this on the podcast before, but, I didn't just dive in and make a drastic change. The first thing I painted, I actually chose a color from Pinterest. Yes, go on Pinterest, find pleasing colors and color palettes. I'm not smart enough to know myself what color goes with what, but Pinterest knows. And I picked one of those colors, and I took a picture off the wall, and I painted that color behind it, and I put the picture back. And then I got the ladies from the church, like one by one, and I took that picture down, and I was like, look what I did. What would you think of this whole wall being that color? And they were like, it's a great idea. We love it. And they got behind it.
Gentle as dove and wise as serpents, my brother.
There you go. And then a brother from the church who wasn't working, I said, would you be willing to come in and do this? And he actually got a little team of people, and they got some supplies together for cheap, and they painted all the stuff. And then, you go to Hobby Lobby, and they do have those 90% off sections, and you're at least going to be able to find something Christianese there in the 90% off section. Grab it, stick it up in a way that looks nice. Again, look at Pinterest and just do what they do. Literally copy what you see on Pinterest that looks okay to you, and you can do it for cheap. It doesn't have to be a priority that takes a ton of your time, but it is a stewardship where you're maximizing these things. I don't know if that goes. Yeah, it does still go with point number 4, but we should move on to point number 5.
Joe,
Point number 5. Watch out. Buildings can quickly become idols. They're idols of neglect. They're idols of caring about something too much. Do you remember that scene in the movie Jaws where Captain Quint is in the back and he puts his fingernails up on the chalkboard and he scratches them down and it makes this horrible noise and everybody stops talking?
I've never seen Jaws.
Remember that?
I remember one thing from Jaws. Do 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 do.
All right, so nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
This, when somebody says this is nails on a chalkboard to me. This is God's house. I don't know if it gets you guys, but that is just like absolute nails on the chalkboards to me, because my immediate response is, well, your house is God's house and my house is God's house too, and God owns all of these houses, right? And somebody will often say this. We have folks that take turns volunteering and cleaning the church. There's probably 10 or 15 families, and we pass around the clipboard and the spreadsheet. And I go, okay, everybody, we're going to sign this up. And the gal will get up and she will say, we need to keep God's house clean. And I'm like,
Well, you remember the song, right? God's house in the middle of God's street. Is that how it goes?
No.
Oh.
So when we talk about something like it's God's house and that's why we want to take care of it, that's really getting our priorities out of order. Of course, it's God's house, but this is not the Holy of Holies. This is not even the holy place, right? We are the temple of the living God together. We as the church, we are the building blocks that make up the church. So when we talk about that building as God's house, it just gets things out of order. This is also something that drives me absolutely crazy. And while it's a good thing, it drives me nuts when somebody says to a kid, and generally it's not the parent of that kid, don't run to the sanctuary. This is a holy place. I'm like, oh, shut up. They shouldn't be running because I don't want them to bump into Ethel, right? That's why I don't want them to run. I want them to be polite in public. I don't want them to be a bunch of wild animals in public. Don't run. Don't be a knucklehead, you little kid. But not because this is God's place.
Yeah.
I tell you what, the very first thing, if you're a Christian, and you get God's in that place, you're going to run to him. Maybe we should all be running around the sanctuary. Not like that, but,
with flags.
Like with flags.
Twirling them
across
around.
the pews and those sorts of things. But
man.
there's this sense that when we idolize the church, we've got sacred cows, whether it's the sanctuary or the narthex or the altar rail. Oh, come on. Give me a break.
Yeah, I had a sweet conversation with an older lady from our church when she was, I think I said the stage or the platform, and she asked me after church, well, why isn't it called the altar? Isn't it the altar? Shouldn't you refer to it that way, not as a stage, just as in a concert? And I was just able to talk about that very thing of, this is just a space where Christians are gathering. There's nothing holy or special.
You'll be an altar when you bring a sheep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So really important conversations and things to lead to. And some of it's just tradition, especially in rural places. It's been passed on, this concept of, well, that room is more special than somewhere else, which just truly isn't the case. Also, you can idolize buildings if you are moving into one, which we're trying to do as a congregation. You can start to focus too much on what it should look like, the details of, permitting and all of these kind of things. It could take a pastor's full time away from the things that he's actually called to do. So a pastor could, did we lose him?
I think he just shut off his audio or video.
Oh, he's
There he
back.
is.
So a pastor could focus too much.
No, I just got a telephone call from my daughter that I haven't picked up from school yet.
Oh, are you supposed to go now?
Yeah. Hey guys, I love you. Raise your Ebenezer.
Love you, bro.
Bye,
Bye.
Joe.
Bye.
So, poor
Oh.
children of Joe. I don't know which one it was, but
Oh no.
so yeah, if you're a pastor and you're in a building campaign or you're wanting to be in a building campaign or there's some kind of transition, whatever, just be careful that you don't forget that your primary responsibilities are the study of the word, prayer, and shepherding the people. Don't let that get out of whack. Also, buildings become idols if you move into a new space and you want it to be perfect. Like, I don't know about you, Josh, but I'm just happy as a clam if someone takes coffee into the auditorium.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could make an argument that, well, then you're not stewarding the things well if there's a spill or whatever. But I would rather have people be comfortable to go in there. Not like we're trying to make church this happy slappy time, but it's I think it's a way to show hospitality.
Yeah.
That's something else I might get emails about. I don't know. But these signs outside, no coffee, no whatever. And then what you have happen, and we've seen this before, people become the coffee police because they saw the sign.
Yep.
Now they see the person with the coffee,
Yep.
even maybe a guest with coffee, and they may go up to them, and rather than getting to know them, they say, hey, sorry, no coffee in here. Or worse and more common, they judge them.
Yeah.
That person walked right by that sign. It said no coffee, and they brought coffee in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not good. Those are all other things that ways building can become idol. But then in rural places, again, a lot of times what we do is we make the building an idol by our neglect. So we almost set it up so that that we're proud of the fact that I'm not putting a lot of time or attention or money or effort into the building. We're just a people who care about the word and each other and nothing else. That's just a place. Well, that I think is idolatry too, because again, God has entrusted something to you that you hopefully are going to pass on to the next generation in good shape. So there we go.
This has been convicting for my own personal life.
I told you to clean your office.
Hey, it's very much cleaner than it was.
It
So
might be
I'm still
cleaner than
working
mine
on
right
it.
at the moment.
Ha!
My desk is a little disheveled.
Yeah, it's good.
Whoops.
Oh, what's going on, TJ?
Got ourselves a little bit of a problem here.
Oh, man.
Guess we're going to need to send out the SOS.
Do it.
All right. Would you help us, please, recover from this death spiral we're in?
Mm-hmm.
Not really, but would you help us by satisfying the algorithms? You can do that first by subscribing. If you subscribe to the podcast, not only will it show up daily in your feed, but it will help get the word out and help other people to find us the more subscribers there are.
Yep.
Next, you could offer a review.
Mm-hmm.
This makes the algorithms even happier. This is like junk food to them. Feed them this review. And when you review the podcast, it also has the wonderful benefit of encouraging our souls. I've shared before, there have been days where I've thought I didn't do very well on the podcast, or I've even had days where I've thought I don't have time to fit this in. And then I hear a word of encouragement through the review, and it really challenges me and wants me to keep serving you in this way.
We've had emails that have been helpful, too.
Oh, so
Suggestions
helpful.
and-
Yeah. Like, stop doing that. That's annoying.
Yep.
One thing, stop talking about how long the podcast is running.
Yep.
That was some feedback I received. So how long are we running right now?
I'm not answering that.
Okay, good. And then lastly, what is the last thing?
Share. You could do this on any social media platform, or you could just do it by word of mouth. Sometimes word of mouth is better. That way you can share how the guys have been an encouragement to you. And, we just appreciate you guys continuing in this journey with us. I can't believe we're almost close to 100 episodes. And we've been so encouraged by your encouragement. I don't know how else to say it.
Joe said he would not have agreed to do the podcast, except he figured maybe 6 months and we'd run out of
Really?
things to talk about.
Oh, my gosh.
So
I think you have, like, bookshelves of like, you know how like you buy books but you don't read them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have bookshelves of stuff we can
Of
talk
ideas.
about.
Yeah. So remember, we're not trying in any way to build an audience. This is not about us. It's not about a platform. This is about connecting rural pastors, a segment of the population that has really been forgotten, who is often isolated, and who's, I know because I've talked to many, many rural pastors who are really, really struggling. So if there is another rural pastor in your area, even if you're not a rural pastor, would you please reach out to them and encourage them in some way? And then maybe by God's grace, some of the content here would be a blessing to them as well.
Yep.
And if you're a listener, we do want to hear from you.
Yes.
If you've not said hi to us yet, would you say hi? Email ruralpastorstalk@gmail.com.
Indeed.
Are you proud of me for
Below.
saying it myself?
Below.
Below, yes.
Oh.
Oh, guess it's time.
Did not mean to do that.
Well, I think on that note, we can go to Stuff
Rural
Pastors
Can
Use.
Reviews.
And Josh is going to tell us about OBS.
Hi, guys. So OBS, as TJ affectionately refers to it, is OBS. It stands for Open Broadcast. I believe it's software.
Oh, I thought it was open bowel syndrome.
Nope, that's not it at all.
Okay,
Nope.
got it.
So it's the platform we're using. As you've noticed, we do like nifty little transitions and such. That is through OBS.
Video platform.
Video platform,
Okay.
yeah. But we can also, you draw audio from it too. So I don't have to record a separate audio file. I can just take it out using something like GarageBand or Audacity on Windows. But OBS is a super helpful platform. We're currently using it not only for the podcast, but we're also using it for our live stream services.
But it's so expensive.
It is free.
Oh.
It is completely free. That's like one of the best benefits of this software is it's completely free, and it's very user-friendly. So I was introduced to it like, 3 months ago?
Yeah.
And I generally understand how the program works. There's probably features that I don't know about or that I haven't studied yet that would probably make things easier. But we were using something called Switcher Studio for the longest time, and we had a brother come in, and he was trying to help out with some of our tech stuff during the Rona when we were all shut in our homes.
It's still during the Rona, by the way.
Yes,
It's re-Rona right now.
the
Rona
first
part
peak.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, Josh, what are you doing, man? I'm like, I don't know, Andrew, what's going on? He's like, you have way too many steps. You got to click buttons. You gotta like set up all your scenes before you can transition. I have this program where all you have to do is click one button and it'll transition. And that led to us using OBS. I love that it's customizable. So Switcher Studio is limited in what it has the ability to do. If you have access to Canva, which again is another free thing, you can make your own designs, you can make your own logos, all of this stuff, and then you put it into OBS. It's very customizable. Generally the what's that saying? Something's the limit.
The sky?
The sky is the limit with OBS, I feel like. So any major, this is going to sound super,
What else would be the
super
limit?
nerdy. Well,
The ceiling? That's not very
no,
high.
it's not very high.
Okay.
I couldn't think of it. So there are a lot of video game streamers who use this, and they make. And I'm not talking about. We don't have any financial backing whatsoever, but they use this program, and it's free, and they're making millions of dollars in a year. They could afford any special program that they wanted to use, yet they choose to use this because it's so user friendly, it's so accessible, it's easy to download. And we actually use it to stream to different platforms. So we use something called Restream. So basically, we stream from OBS, it goes to Restream, and then it goes to YouTube and Facebook. So you don't have to just stream to Facebook or YouTube. You can make your program, you can make your church services, whatever you're doing, you can make it multi-platform. So that you can reach a larger audience. So for a Sunday morning, that's super important for us because not everyone has a Facebook. Many people have YouTube because, well, anyone can use YouTube, even if you don't have an account. So having something like OBS go into Restream is very, very beneficial. So, yeah, if you are the tech guy at your church, if you are looking to start a podcast, I would highly encourage using OBS. It's a phenomenal program, very easy to use. There is super, super easy and easy to follow tutorials on YouTube. There's this one guy, I think his name's AJ, the CEO. He does tech for his church using OBS, and I have been watching his videos trying to learn how we can transition OBS for our Sunday services. So
Yeah. Very cool.
yeah, it's a great tool.
Appreciate all you're doing with it. And we can do a slight delay like we do with this.
Indeed.
So in case I say something foolish, Josh can delete
Cut.
it real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good.
Yep.
Well, thank you for that wonderful review.
Indeed.
If somebody needs to have a little help setting up OBS, where would you point them? That YouTube channel?
I think the AJ, the CEO, he has a bunch of videos. He has a intro video of like, this is how to use the platform specifically for church streaming. And then he gets into like nitty gritty things like how to add lower thirds, the different types of lower thirds you can add. Just as an example, he'll help you with audio also and video camera selections and stuff like that. So
It's cool.
Yep.
And one thing that I would say is important to point out, it's taxing on your computer.
it is.
So it may require some upgrading.
So you guys may have noticed earlier there was like 2 or 3 minutes of the episode that things were being like really choppy with the video. That was because I was transferring some stuff onto an external hard drive while we were recording. And I was like, oh my goodness, what's going on? I closed all of that and it's fixed. So that gives you an example of you need a decent computer to run it.
All right, now we're going to transition to one more part of the episode.
What is it?
It's called Put Josh on the Spot. Josh.
Yes.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
When I came to you on Sunday, I said to you, you look stressed.
Yes.
What were you stressed about?
OBS.
Why?
Because I want to strive for excellence in the way in which, and so leading up to that conversation, we had a meeting for our staff on Tuesday. In essence, we were saying our live stream, though it's not the primary way in which we want people to interact, we want people to come to church. There is a biblical precedent in Hebrews 10 to not forsake the fellowship.
Online church does not equal church.
It does not equal church. No. However, we want to have a tool for our congregants to use if they're quarantining, if they're sick. We want them to be able to at least participate.
If they don't feel like coming that day?
No.
Oh.
Not a good excuse.
Yeah.
We want them to be able to hear the word preached. We want them to be able to sing with our worship. So OBS seemed to be the answer to that. There was a lot going on. All the technology wasn't working correctly. Our camera wasn't working. Our audio wasn't working.
Yeah.
And I felt very bad because I wanted to encourage them. I recognized, though, there was some pride and arrogance.
But I gave you a kiss on the cheek.
And everything.
You were good to go.
Better.
Yes.
FYI, TJ did not kiss me. He had a mask on. So
COVID, yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember you figured out it was the audio. It was the cable.
It was the cable.
It wasn't even OBS's fault.
It wasn't even OBS's. No. Nope. So we had a cable. Andrew explained it to me. One has just a positive feed, and then one has a positive and a grounding feed. And we needed that second one. And because we have 2 services right now because of COVID, we actually were able to switch cables, and it worked excellently the second service.
Very cool.
Yep.
Thanks for your hard work.
My pleasure.
So we're closing out with a quote. This is a quote from Andrew Gray, a Puritan. He said, "When we are most lazy, the devil is most busy. Sloth is the cause of sin, and idleness the fruitful mother of wickedness." Why were the Puritans so smart?
Because they didn't have social media.
Okay.
That's my answer.
Very good.
That's my answer.
Simply eliminate social media, and you too
Yep.
can be a Puritan.
Indeed.
So yeah, in our buildings, guys, let's just be honest. Some of the issues we have are an issue of laziness. So when we are most lazy, the devil is most busy. Sloth or laziness cannot say those together. Sloth or laziness
There you go.
is the cause of sin, and idleness the fruitful mother of wickedness. Do not be idle. Do not be slothful when it comes to your facilities.
It's reflective of the Proverbs, very much so.
Yes, indeed. Speaking of reflective of the Proverbs, it's time to go.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of Rural Pastors Talk.
Thanks, guys.
See you next time.
Bye.
If you would like to... That's the wrong music.
That's not right.
Well, it was okay.
No.
Could have left it.
Nope. We have to end correctly. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Rural Pastors Talk, the smoothest podcast around.
This has been rough.
If you would like to contact Josh and speak with him, email with him, argue with him, contend with him, support him, encourage him, question him, or otherwise acknowledge his presence, please email
realpastorstalk@gmail.com.
Goodbye. Cannot believe Joe forgot his daughter. I will get that phone call someday. Dad, where are you? Yesterday, I had to leave early to take the children to the dentist,
Okay.
and I probably would have been late without my wife calling and saying the dentist wants the kids to come early. Can we go now? So
You're like, yes,
yes.
of course.
we can go to that appointment. I remembered,
Yeah.
and we had to pay dearly.
Ah.
Do you have any fillings?
Yes.
A lot or a little?
Average? What's the average filling?
I don't know.
Probably none. I think I have like 3.
You think 0 is
3
the
or
average?
4.
I don't think so.
I feel like a healthy mouth is.
Well, that's the goal,
Yeah.
but the goal and the average are not the same thing.
Yes. I was supposed to have braces because I have 3 baby teeth that don't have adult teeth.
You do. My wife
and
has
they were
that.
going to pull the baby teeth
Yeah.
and then use braces to form my mouth. It just never happened. So
So-
they were like, care for your teeth and they'll fall out when you're 55. And I
Oh,
was
so you
like,
still have the baby teeth?
Yeah.
So does Katie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you gonna get fake one, like an implant?
We'll see what happens. God willing, I make it to 55. They fall
Where
out.
are they?
They're molars. They're all molars.
Oh, molars.
Yeah.
Katie has them up toward the front.
Does she?
Yeah, that's rough. So we'll make some mods.
Yeah.
She'll get a body mod.
Anyway, you were talking fillings.
Fillings.
Yes.
I think I have 4 now.
Okay.
I had none until I became a church planter and didn't go to the dentist for a while
Gotcha.
because the dentist is expensive.
Yes.
And then I went. No, I have 6. I had 6 that I had to be filled.
In one time.
Well, he gave me a schedule.
Wow.
It was a few different visits. I think he might have done 2 at a time. But the kids had to get a few fillings yesterday, and they took them like champs.
Good.
They did a really good job.
Awesome.
Actually,
Praise the Lord.
even a tooth pull.
Really?
So there's one that was going to come out, had a little bit of an issue, and they said, let's just take it out.
All right.
Deal with it. I feel like you're going to stop us now.
I think I should.
Okay.